Good morning, everyone. This is Jaimini Astrology channel. Hope you are all doing well in this new 2026, which is ahead of us. So, first of all, I do not record often because obviously I'm very busy. Today we're going to do the second episode of Advanced Chara Dasha Sessions. This is going to be the second episode. What else I can add? I can't guarantee that I'll be uploading stuff, videos often due to being quite, I would say, very busy in my daily and professional life. So, apologies for that, okay? So, let's talk about the horoscope in front of us as starting our discussion. What I need to mention here is that this horoscope is taken from new Marc Boney book called The Astrology of Mental Illness, which I strongly recommend you to read. This is I would say, a brilliant, very, very good book to read. I'll repeat, The Astrology of Mental Illness by Marc Boney. So, due to the sensitivity of the subject which we're going to discuss today, I do not share the birth details here, but obviously you will find all the necessary details in the book which I mentioned previously. As I've said, it is taken from the book called The Astrology of Mental Illness by Marc Boney. So, coming to the horoscope in front of us, first of all, make yourself familiar what I've written in the chart. Okay, we'll start. I need to talk briefly about transits. Okay, I need to say especially one thing. Please do not hurt yourself by listening to those, I would say, fake astrologers who tell you a lot of nonsense about transits and how they depend on dashas. I'll explain. Basically, what is the first thing you should do when looking at someone's horoscope? It is clear and obvious. You need to check current transits. Why? Because they will tell you straight if there is something, I would say, something wrong going on. So, first of all, always check transits. Like I've said before, they will give you the insight of what is happening, in person's life straight. That's extremely useful tool. Do not listen to those people trying to convince you that transit wholly depends on dashas. You need to check the dashas first. I'll explain. Obviously, transits will be extremely useful only if you know how to read them properly, I would say. Yeah. I want to come back to these, I would call them figures, okay? Pretending to be astrologers. They already forgot how they were elaborating on Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, dashas predicting Harris' victory in the last UK elections. I was talking about it a few times in different places, They were talking about Kamala Harris and Trump's dashas predicting Harris' victory, while totally neglecting transits. What was the results of the election? We all know. Only by looking on Trump's transits, it was very easy to conclude that he would win. Why? Because he had two good transits, you know, two good transits at the time of the election. But doing transits properly, you would have to understand the basics of astrology properly. I'm not going to quarrel with anyone. I don't have time for that. I'm extremely busy in my life, as I mentioned before, but I want you to pay attention and consider what I'm talking about. Trump's transit, check the Donald Trump's transit during the election day. These transits were too good to causing him a loss, to be honest. Okay, so look at the chart. Okay, look at the chart in front of us. In brackets, you've got the chart. Sorry, in brackets you've got the planets, grahas, which were transiting on a particular day when the person, the owner of the horoscope, unfortunately committed suicide. Yeah, so these planets in brackets are the transiting grahas at the time, on the day when the person committed suicide. Okay, what we can see here, follow me closely. Okay, so let's have a look at the 10th house. Okay, first of all, 10th house of Mesha. Okay, and what we see there, Rahu was in the 10th house of Mesha, transiting Mesha. What is more important? It is the same house where the Lagna Lord, Moon, is posited. That's the very important fact, but step by step. Okay, Ketu was transiting the 4th house of Tula. Okay, coming back to the 10th house again. Okay, one more time. You can see that Moon was also transiting Mesha, and more importantly, coming back to its birth natal position. You need to remember that you can clearly see Moon is the Lagnesh of this chart. It is also well known that many people die, especially when Moon is coming back to its birth sign position. It is not a secret for someone who knows astrology. It is known and significant fact which we have to mention here. Again, Sun, we're still at the 10th house of Mesha. Sun was also transiting Mesha at the time. So what we can see here, what are the circumstances? It was Amavasya day. It was a new moon at the time. Yeah? Okay, so we're leaving the 10th house right now of Mesha, and we're coming to the 8th house of Kumbha. Okay? 8th house of Kumbha. What we can observe here, as you can see, Shani, Saturn, was transiting in Kumbha in the 8th house, and more importantly, what happened during the transit? Shani was aspecting the 10th house. Yeah, Shani was aspecting the moon, the Lagnesh, but also the transiting moon. Yeah, Shani was also casting aspect on those transiting Sun and Rahu. Yeah, in the 10th house. So casting aspect on 3 transiting grahas, which were Moon, Sun, and Rahu, and obviously, and the most importantly, casting aspect on the Lagnesh, which is Moon. Okay, so that's very, very important. Apart from that, obviously look at Shani's aspect during the transit. Yeah, Shani was, just give me a second, Shani was aspecting, obviously, the 2nd house of Simha and the 5th house of Scorpio by its, obviously, 10th aspect. What we have to mention here, if you know, obviously, Parashari astrology well, you know that Shani is Maraka for Karka Lagna. Why? Because Shani is the ruler of the 7th and 8th houses. Yeah? So Shani is the Maraka, yeah, for Karka Lagna. Okay, so you see the situation, yeah, quite intense. The picture becomes clearer. Okay, look what else is happening in the 8th house. Okay, there is Mangala, Mars. What is Mars? Here, what function does the Mars have in this chart? Obviously, Yoga Karaka. Why Mars is called Yoga Karaka? Because Mars is the ruler, of the 5th and 10th houses, or Karka Lagna. So as you see, Mars as the 5th lord. This is very important. Mars as the 5th lord was transiting through the 8th house of Kumbha. You need to focus on the 5th lord in the 8th house. What does it tell you? These combinations are very well known, causing mental health issues such as depression, etc. Okay, so from Kumbha, from the 8th, Mangala was also aspecting the 11th of Rishabha, yep, the 2nd of Simha, and by its 8th aspect, and this is the most important here, the 3rd house of Kanya. Yeah, what can we say about the 3rd house? Why it is important? Some people call the 3rd house as the house of sudden death or sudden events. Why? As it is 8 from the 8, applying, Bhavat Bhavam concept. Yeah. 3rd house, along with the 8 houses, I would say these are the houses of longevity. And when, that's very important. When afflicted, then they indicate danger or threat to life. What is the 3rd house? What does it stand for? 3rd house is the one of action. What else? Energy, movement, will, effort. That's what the 3rd house indicates in general. I mentioned, yeah, you cannot, I would say, miss or overlook that Bhavat Bhavam concept, yeah, as the third house being 8 from the 8. But some people, there's a slight subtle difference. Some people interpret that as the house, the third house, as the house of sudden events, sudden death, when the others, make a slight difference and explain that the third house is also as the 8. Both of these houses are the houses of longevity. Okay? So now, okay, now we'll come to transiting Jupiter, Guru. Okay? Transiting Guru. During the transit on that particular day, Guru was along with Shukra, yeah, transiting through the 9th house of Meena. Okay, what we know about Guru. Okay, for the first sight, it is natural benefic, isn't it? Yeah. Here for Karkalagna, it is the 9th Lord. Yeah. So auspicious. But okay, my question here is that is it only auspicious or there is something else? Yeah? Is it just the first class benefic? No, we can't agree to that, because why? It is also the 6th, more importantly, the 6th Lord for Karkalagna, bringing problems and difficulties. Guru, as you can see here in the chart, is also Gnati Karaka when it comes to Jaimini, yeah? But we'll discuss Jaimini later on, okay? So, what we can see in regards to Guru. As I mentioned, Guru with Shukra, yeah? With Venus were transiting the 9th of Meena, and both aspecting the third house. What I've not mentioned yet, what we can see in the 3rd house, yeah? It is connected obviously to Jaimini. Here we've got Gulika, okay, for future reference. This is GL, marked as GL, this is Gulika. But, okay, coming back to Parashari Astrology, yeah, they are both aspecting the 3rd house. We explained what the 3rd house means. Apart from that, Guru was aspecting what Guru was aspecting. Obviously, the Lagna, yeah, the Lagna, which is Karka, yeah, Karka, and what else? Apart from the 1st and the 3rd house, also aspecting the 5th house of Scorpio, Vrishika, yeah. What can we say about Shukra additionally? Okay, it comes when obviously you check the chart carefully. Okay, you need to take many different things into consideration. Shukra is obviously 64th Navamsha Lord, yeah, for this chart, for this horoscope. Okay, what else to focus on? Let's focus for a while on the transit of Rahu and Ketu. Once again, as you see, Rahu has been transiting the 10th house of Mesha. Ketu was transiting the 4th house of Tula. Yeah, what that particular transit reveals. You need to see that Rahu is transiting the 10th of Mesha when the Lagnesh, moon, is placed. Yeah, so that's significant. Yeah, Ketu transits the 4th of Tula, where natal birth guru. Jupiter is posited as the Lord, as we mentioned, the 6th and the 9th houses. Okay? Coming to the rest, yeah, of the transits. What else we can see? There is obviously Mercury, Buddha, transiting in the 11th house of Rishabha, yeah, and aspecting obviously the 5th house of Rishika, Scorpio. But what is the very important factor we cannot omit in regards to Buddha Mercury? Buddha Mercury is the 22nd Drekana Lord. Yeah? So that's the very important thing which cannot be, forgotten or overlooked. Yeah? This is the 22nd Drekana Lord aspecting the 5th house. Extremely important. Okay? Do not neglect that. So, what is, what can be seen from that transiting picture? Saying it straight, it is all clear and obviously informing or alarming you that the person is not going through an easy time, but rather, I would say, struggling enormously, yeah, as long as you simply understand what you are looking at. Yeah, this is how checking transits Gochara can be extremely useful. So what I need to say, don't understand me wrong, just simply don't be a fool, okay? And I don't mean anything wrong by that. Pay a lot of importance to transits, yeah, current transits. As I mentioned previously, this is extremely valuable and helpful tool. It will tell you straight away, yeah, what is happening in the person's life at present. Yeah, do not start from the dasha. Yeah, when you look at the horoscope, someone is giving you their horoscope. Look at the transits at that particular time. Okay. What else I can add here? You need to know that old school traditional village astrologers in India were able to tell you what was happening in your life by seeing just transits. And this is not my imagination, this is the fact. Yeah? Those astrologers, village astrologers in the old days, traditional old school astrologers in India, they were able to tell you what is happening, yeah, by just mere looking on the transits. Here, when we're checking the transits, we need to look at hashtag Varga, yeah, as well. So I checked obviously the hashtag Varga, and during the transit on that particular day when the person unfortunately, as I said, committed suicide, the lowest hashtag Varga was for Shani, transiting Kumbha. Shani had 2 bindus, yeah. So let's conclude that part, that transit part. Okay, so to conclude, what you need to focus on, you need to see, yeah, first of all, the 10th house and see how afflicted the Lagna Lord Moon is while looking at the transits. You've got there Rahu and Sun transiting at that particular time, plus obviously Shani, transiting Shani, aspecting the Lagnesh from the 8th of Kumbha. It is all creating, that situation is creating Amavasya, and Moon, more importantly, is transiting its natal birth position, you know. So these are the factors which you can't omit, okay? So this is all which I wanted to mention, I would say, regarding the transit. Just give me a second. So before we come to Gemini, I'll just erase, okay, the screen a bit, and we'll focus on Gemini, okay? We'll focus on Gemini, but I'll just clear all that markings, okay? Obviously, we talked about the third house. You can see there is, focus on that, there is Gulika, okay? Gulika sitting in the third house of Kanya, yeah? That's what we take into our consideration when we obviously do Gemini astrology, okay? So let me just clear that transit in grahas, okay? So I'll clear that transit in grahas as well. Just have a little bit of patience, okay? Patience, and we'll come to Gemini soon, okay? We'll come to Gemini soon. Just a second. I'll just add one more time the Guru here in our picture, yeah, which is Guru, Jupiter, and it plays the role of Gnati Karaka in that particular chart, okay? So coming back to Gemini, okay? So the person passed away during Mithuna. Write it down, okay, for your own convenience, if you obviously want. So the person passed away during Mithuna, which is Gemini, Mahadasha, Kanya, which is Virgo, Antardasha, and Rishabha, which is Taurus, Pratyantardasha, okay? And we'll talk about each of them. So starting from Mithuna, okay? Mithuna Mahadasha, which is Gemini. So what we can see here in Mithuna, what is happening there? First of all, we need to notice that Mithuna is the 12th house from Lagna, yeah? 12th house from Lagna, and also it is the Karakamsha Lagna and Upapada Lagna at the same house. As you can clearly see, the Rashi contains retrograde Shani, Saturn, which is Atma Karaka for that chart, and Rahu. These two grahas are obviously natural malefics, apart from their functions, yeah. Shani is the Atma Karaka, but still it is the malefic, okay? So let's look, just give me a second. Let's look at the 1-7 axis, yeah, Mithuna, Danu. Oh yeah, just give me a second. Just give me a second. That's it. Okay. So Mituna Danu axis. Okay, so which is first 7 houses axis. What we can see, there are six grahas all together. Yeah, you see their significations. Yeah, the most important I mentioned, Rahu, and Shani Atmakaraka in the first house of Mituna, the other 4 in the 7th. Yeah, obviously Sun, Venus, Buddha, and Ketu. Buddha is Putra Karaka. Also, more importantly, I mentioned Gulika, yeah? Mentioned Gulika, we've got Gulika in the 4th house, yeah? From Mituna, and Gulika is also, yeah? Is also aspecting the 1st and the 7th houses, yeah? So you can't omit that. Okay, let me clearly clean that. Okay, I clean that quickly, and we will move forward. Okay, that's it. What else we can see there apart from that 1-7 axis which we mentioned? Guru, Jupiter, it is placed in the 5th house of Tula. Guru is Gnati Karaka, signifying the 6th, 8th, and 12th houses. The problem maker, as we often call, yeah, Gnati Karaka. The 5th house, what is the 5th house? Responsible for mind, intelligence. It is also related to our mental health condition, yeah, altogether, yeah. So that's what we need to understand. Okay, so Guru is suspecting Gnati Karaka, obviously, is suspecting the 10th of Simha, the 9th, yeah, of Kumbha, and the 12th, of Rishabha. Okay, so that's also a very important factor. Coming back, okay, just clean that. Then what else we can see? Moon, Matrikaraka, and Mangala, Dharakaraka. Okay, you can see both of them. Moon, as we mentioned previously, Matrikaraka is placed in the Mesha Rashi. Mangala Dharakaraka is placed in Karka. We'll talk more about them, but what do they aspect when it comes to Mituna Mahadasha? They both aspect the 6th house, yeah, the 6th house from Mituna, yeah. Matrikaraka is also aspecting the 3rd house, okay, the 3rd house, and Dharakaraka is aspecting the 12th house from Mituna. You know, you need to see all their aspects in connection to Guru Gnati Karaka. Yeah, so just go through all these aspects, which were Guru, Gnati Karaka, yeah, Man, Moon, Matri Karaka, and Mangala, Dara Karaka, and it will give you the full picture. Okay, so see those aspects of those three Chara Karakas all together, Matri Karaka, Dara Karaka, and Gnati Karaka. So the pictures becomes clearer. Okay, so that's in regards to Mithuna Mahadasha. I believe it is easily seen, you know, how difficult the situation, the circumstances might be for the person while going through Mithuna, yeah, going through Mithuna Mahadasha. Okay, now we'll go to Kanya Antardasha. Okay, so what we can say about Kanya, obviously, as you can see, this is Kanya, this is the third house from Karka, yeah, Lagna. We talked about the signification of the third house. What else we can see? Obviously, Gulika, yeah, Gulika is in the first of Kanya, because now we're looking at Kanya Antardasha, yeah. So what is happening here? As you can see, Shani and Rahu from the third house are aspecting Kanya, the first, with the Gulika in, and then you've got another 4 grahas, including Putra Karaka, also aspecting Kanya, yeah. So again, we've got 1-7, yeah, 1-7 axis and aspects on first and seventh houses. Okay, Shani Atma Karaka is aspecting the first of Kanya. Yeah, look, Shani and Rahu are obviously natural malefics, aspecting the first house of the body, which is here Kanya, because we're talking about Kanya and Tardasha, and here you've got also Gulika, you know, placed in Kanya. Okay, let me just clear that. We need to see another very important and significant things. Okay, what else is very important here? So let's look at the 8th house. Okay, so 8th house from Kanya obviously is Mesha, yeah, and here you've got Chandra, Matri, Karaka placed in Mesha, yeah, and let's look at 3 particular grahas, yeah, in connection to the 6th house, yeah. Look, Guru, Gnati Karaka from the 2nd of Tula. Oh yeah, just give me a second. Guru from the 2nd of Tula, Guru Gnati Karaka is aspecting the 6th house of Kumbha. Struggle, problems, difficulties, yeah. Chandra, Matri Karaka, in the 8th house, from the 8th house aspecting the 6th house of struggle, yeah, fight, difficulties, problems, yeah, injuries, wounds, etc., etc. And here also we've got Dara Karaka, Mangala, aspecting the 6th house from Karka. You see the aspects on the 6th house, yeah, and more importantly, focus on the placement of Matrikaraka, Chandra in the 8th house, yeah. So taking that into consideration and talking about the mental health conditions, you see how disturbed mentally the person unfortunately can be. Yeah, so do not neglect that. It is extremely important. Okay, let me just clear that quickly. Just give me a second. What else we need to pay our attention to specifically? So Matrikaraka, which is Chandra, and Darakaraka, they both, just give me a second, they both aspect the third house of Rishika. Yeah. Also, Matrikaraka from the 8th, yeah, Chandra, is aspecting the 12th of Simha. Yeah. I mentioned that we need to pay a lot of attention of that Matrikaraka Chandra placement in Mesha and what aspects Chandra makes. From the 8th Mesha, I mentioned that, yeah, so you can clearly see that these are the aspects on the 3rd of Rishika, on the 6th of Kumbha, and on the 12th of Mesha. And you need to see that in connection to, obviously, Gnatikaraka, Jupiter, Guru, and Darakaraka, Mangala. Okay. What else? Which I was going to mention previously, but I've just postponed that. Okay. You need to see, obviously, the relation, the close relation, yeah, between Chandra and Mangala here. Yeah, Matrikaraka and Darakaraka. Yeah, Mangala in this chart, obviously, as well as Shani, they are retrograde, yeah, which I forgotten to mention, yeah, but you can see it on the screen. But what is the special relation between Matrikaraka and Darakaraka? They are in, obviously, in the Parivartana, yeah, Parivartana, which constitutes, which makes that close connection. Okay, you need to understand that Parivartana, yeah, when you see Parivartanas in the chart, don't get so excited, yeah, don't think this way that Parivartana, it is just the auspicious factor, yeah, do not do that, yeah, you see in this chart, yeah, you need to really consider thoroughly, I would say, what, function the grahas have in the chart, what function they play, you need to scrutinize that carefully, okay? Just, seeing Parivartana and taking it as the auspicious sign without, I would say, analyzing, scrutinizing it thoroughly, yeah, it's a big mistake, okay? What is the another Parivartana here in the chart? Obviously, you've got Guru Gnati Karaka, yeah, and Shukra Bratri Karaka, Parivartana, okay? In some aspects of life, yes, I agree, yeah, these Parivartanas might do some good, but finally, do they? Are they so powerful to protect the person, or they rather act in a problematic, inauspicious manner? Okay, so this is it about Parivartanas. Okay, so we talked about Kanya Antardasha. Let me just clear that. Then we'll go to our Pratyantardasha, okay, as the last. Let me just clean all of that. Let me just clear the screen. Just a second. Just a moment. And okay. Here we go again. Now we'll finally talk about Rishabha Pratyantardasha. Rishabha, which is Taurus. Yeah? We've got Taurus here. Okay, so what we can say about Taurus. So, as you can see, clearly see, it is the 11th house from Lagna. But what you need to focus on here, yeah? What is more important? Rishabha, Taurus is the 12th house from what? From Karakamsha and Upapada. Yeah? This is a lot more important factor. Yeah? Rishabha is the 12th house from Karakamsha Lagna and Upapada Lagna. Okay, so what is worth to mention here? See that Darakaraka, yeah, which is Mangala, retrograde Mangala, Darakaraka, as well with what else we've got here in Karka. We've got Darakaraka Navamsha, yeah, DKN mark. So both Darakaraka and Darakaraka Navamsha aspect the first of Rishabha. You need to, when you deal with Jaimini, when you do Jaimini, you need to know the significance of Darakaraka Navamsha. Yeah? So that's why it is marked on the chart. It has to be marked on the chart. Yeah? So Darakaraka Navamsha and Darakaraka are aspecting the first of Rishabha from the 3rd house. Yeah? From the 3rd house. So that's very important. What else? Look at Gnati Karaka. Yeah? Gnati Karaka Guru is placed in the 6th house. Yeah? 6th house of Tula, as seen from Rishabha. Yeah? Lagna and Gnati Karaka, the troublemaker, problem maker, is aspecting the first, yeah, of Rishabha from the Tula Rashi. Okay. What else? To make the picture clearer, look at the Matrikaraka, look at the position and condition of the moon. Moon is placed in the 12th house of Mesha. 12th house known for solitude, sadness, isolation, yeah, etc. Yeah, so moon Matrikaraka is placed in the 12th, remaining in the 12th house of Mesha. What else we need to focus on? Yeah, let's look at the Kendra houses as seen from Rishabha Mahadasha. So which are the Kendra houses? These are obviously Rishabha, the 4th, which is Simha, yeah, the 7th, which is Rishika, yeah, and the 10th of Kumbha. These are the Kendra houses. What we can say about them? They are empty, yeah, they are devoid of any grahas. They simply remain empty, which is not a promising sign. Okay, we'll go now to the 5th house. Yeah, it is very important what is happening here in the 5th house. Yeah, 5th house of Kanya, as seen from the 1st of Rishabha. And first of all, what we can see immediately, there is Gulika, yeah, in the 5th house of Kanya. Yeah, What else? Fifth house is receiving, obviously, the aspects of natural malefics as Shani and Rahu, retrograde Shani, but Shani is also Atma Karaka. Yeah, so check on those aspects. Yeah, fifth house is receiving aspects from sixth grahas altogether. Why? Because you've got another four grahas, yeah, placed in the eighth house. Eighth house of Danu and aspecting the fifth house of Kanya, where the Gulika is placed. You also need to understand the significance of eighth house, yeah, to make it clear. Eighth house is not the house of death, as you might think of. Eighth house has got difficult significations, yeah, very problematic significations, but this is not the house of death. The death house is the seventh house, and in Gemini, the significator of death is Darakaraka. Darakaraka plus also Darakaraka Navamsha might tell you about death, yeah, but the eighth house is the house of longevity, yeah. Apart from that, the eighth house, when it comes to those inauspicious, I would say, yeah, signification, it stands from sadness, mental agony, such tense and intense, feeling, causing you, as I've mentioned, mental suffering, suffering and agony, obviously. Yeah, so these are the significations of the eighth house, which you need to understand and take into consideration. Yeah? Don't mistake the eighth house as the house of death. For that we've got the seventh house. For that, in Gemini, for that we've got Darakaraka and Darakaraka Navamsha. Yeah, the eighth house is the house of longevity, but apart from that, it carries those difficult significations. Yes, fear, struggling, yeah, suffering, yeah, long-term illness, yeah, fight. Eighth house is also the house of fight, along with the sixth house, yeah, mental agony, distress, sadness, yeah. These are the significations of the eighth house. Some of these significations, like the sadness, mental isolation, yeah, remaining isolated, in faraway places. This is also the signification of the 12th house, isolation, yeah, taking yourself away from others, hiding yourself, yeah, 12th house as well, yeah. So, as you can see, the 8th house from Rishabha, yeah, the 8th house from Rishabha contains 4 grahas, including Putra Karaka, yeah, Putra Karaka, the significator of the 5th house, responsible for our intelligence, mental ability, our mental health condition, yeah, Putra Karaka, in the 8th, aspecting the 5th house with Gulika, yeah. Yeah, so 4 grahas aspecting the 5th from 8. Yeah, so the picture becomes clear, and see how tense, yeah, how difficult it might become, for the person, what the person has to go through. I mentioned that the Darakaraka and Darakaraka Navamsha are aspecting 1-7 axis, yeah, which are obviously Rishabha the first, and Rishika the 7th, and Matrikaraka more importantly, yeah, is the moon remaining in the 12th house, but from the 12th house it is also aspecting the 7th of Rishika. Yeah. What else I want to add? It is extremely important to closely scrutinize this chart as seen from where I was talking about previously, as well as seeing this chart from Karakamsha Lagna and Upapada Lagna. What can you see from there? Reflect on that. What can you see from there? What are the most important factors you should take into consideration? Yeah, you have to scrutinize this chart as seen from Upapada Lagna and Karakamsha Lagna. See, yeah, what is happening in the 1-7 axis. Yeah, Mituna Danu. Yeah, see the aspect of Gulika. See what the first house of Mituna contains. Atma Karaka. Yeah, this is for those people who do Jaimini astrology. Yeah, the dasha containing Atma Karaka. Yeah, it is well known rule. The dasha containing of Atma Karaka might be extremely dangerous. Yeah, dangerous for the horoscope owner. Yeah, we all know that those people who deal with Gemini astrology, the dasha containing Atma Karaka might be difficult. Yeah, when it comes to health. Yeah, and when it comes to your safety. Yeah, it might be dangerous dasha. I would say with the threat, to your personal safety. Yeah. Honestly, I need to remind the person, as we already know, committed suicide in the Mithuna Mahadasha, unfortunately. So, I believe I said enough about that chart. I'm not going to, to take into consideration every single detail. I do not have time for that. Yeah, you can do so while analyzing this chart, while reflecting on that chart. Yeah, from many different angles. Yeah, I just mentioned the most important things. So here, I would say I'm going to conclude. I'm going to finish that episode. So stay well and healthy. All the best. Good luck. And as I've said previously, I don't know how often I will manage to record. Like I've said, I repeat it for the last final time. I'm extremely busy, very, very busy in my life. I have many different things on my head, so I can't record too often. Yeah, I hope it was worth to spend that nearly an hour by researching on that chart due to, as I said, sensitivity. I do not share the birth details. You will find the birth details of that person in Marc Boney book, which I consider to be a great book, The Astrology of Mental Illness. Marc Boney. So this is pretty. That book was published the last month of 2025, I believe. Yeah, so it's a quite new book. Yeah. So one more time, all the best. Good luck. Take care, and I'll see you when I'll see you the next time. Bye.